Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and welcome to the second upload of today because as promised guys, I am doing a free hit draft for you today to show you what I would do if I were to free hit. Now, I need to caveat this a little bit. This is not my team. This is not my team. If you want to go see my team, that is the team selection video, which I uploaded yesterday. I'm not going to be using my free hit this week, but that's not to say that a free hit might not be, it might be right for you. If you have the opportunity to not free hit, you know, if you can use a triple captain or a bench boost instead this week, I think those are preferable if possible. But some of you guys are going to find yourself with only kind of 3 or 4, maybe even 5 double game week players. You kind of thinking that's not enough, particularly if some of your double game week players are players like Dennis or King that you're not too confident in, or players who are pretty rotation risk. If those are the kind of players you have that are your double game week players, you're probably going to be a little bit worried. You want to maximize the double game week and just get as many players on the pitch as possible. You know, get on those Liverpool players, get on those Arsenal players. So I'm going to show you how I would do that if I were to do that. So yeah, if you do enjoy this video, please do leave a like. And if you're new around here, please do subscribe. And yeah, stay tuned for, you know, all the content that is on this channel at the moment. I'm going crazy with videos at the moment, I have to tell the truth. I'm just enjoying making content, you know. But without further ado, let's have a look at my game week 26 free hit draft. Oh, sorry guys for the long intro, but there we go. So this video, I've decided to go for a budget of 100.2 million. So I'm trying to keep this one fairly cheap, so it's accessible for a lot of different people. I know you guys have said before, you know, Dan, these drafts are a little bit too expensive. I can't quite afford it. So yeah, we're going to go cheap, and I'll make some suggestions of how you can maybe cut some money out of it and maybe, you know, add a little bit more money to it as well if that's what you want to do, if you had a little bit more or less budget. But here we go. Let's start off in goal with Aaron Ramsdale. I think that is the most obvious slam dunk free hit move you can ever make, right? This is, remember, a team that we're just thinking about one game week only. Who is the goalkeeper most likely to get the most points this game week? And I believe the answer is Ramsdale. And I've said this before this week, but I feel like Ramsdale is going to be not just the best performing goalkeeper of the game week, but actually one of the highest performing players of the game week, full stop, which is an interesting thing to say about a goalkeeper. So Ramsdale is definitely a must-have player. Brentford and Wolves, 2 incredibly good fixtures from a defensive point of view. These are 2 fixtures against teams that do not score a lot of goals. This is also 2 home games. This is also an Arsenal team who are kind of, you know, fairly high up in the tables in terms of their defensive statistics. And on top of that, Ramsdale makes a lot of saves. He gets a lot of bonus points and he gets, well, clean sheet points as well. So honestly, genuinely with Ramsdale, I would be disappointed with anything less than 10 points this game week. I think he will easily exceed 10 points, which for a goalkeeper is just phenomenal. 15-pointer would not surprise me from Ramsdale this game week. That is how seriously, you know, without a penalty save, 15 points is usually impossible for a goalkeeper, right? But yeah, Ramsdale, definitely the goalkeeper to go for. Into defence, we're going to go for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Super obvious one. Again, Norwich and Leeds, 2 home games, which we really like. 2 really quite easy games as well. Now, Trent is probably going to be the most nailed of the Liverpool players that we are usually talking about. We usually talk about, you know, Trent, Salah, Jota, Mane. These are kind of the big hitting players that we're kind of talking about at the moment. Maybe Robertson as well. Trent is the most nailed on out of those particular players. So that is a real huge point in his favour. You would expect at least 1 clean sheet over the 2 game weeks. Norwich at home is a real good candidate for a clean sheet there. But you wouldn't be too surprised with a clean sheet at Leeds as well. So 2 clean sheets would be really nice from Trent. There are also 2 fairly weak defences, Norwich and Leeds. So we would expect maybe some set pieces, maybe some crosses, maybe some really good key passes, and the occasional shot from Trent. There is a very good chance that he does get a goal contribution as well over the 2 game weeks. I would imagine that he does get at least 1 goal contribution over the 2 game weeks, particularly if Liverpool are scoring a lot of goals, which again is something that we would expect to happen. So Trent is one of those must-have players for a free hit draft in game week 26, and I will definitely have him. I'll definitely keep him. You know, he's got to be in there. Now, next one is kind of interesting. I've gone for Van Dijk as my second Liverpool player. Now, this is in part to try and keep the budget down a little bit. You could go for Robertson as well if you fancied that, or you could have your, I mean, you know who the 3rd Liverpool player is going to be already, right? But if you wanted to go for, you know, your second, your alternate Liverpool player, because you've got Trent, you've got Salah, who's going to be your third Liverpool player. And I've gone for Van Dijk here. You could have some other players if you want to, but Van Dijk, I think, is a really good shout. And the first reason for that is minutes. There is no player I can think of in the Liverpool starting lineup other than Alisson who is likely to get 180 minutes. Who's going to play both games in full. Van Dijk is going to be the guy for that. So you've got those minutes. If we're expecting 2 clean sheets, Norwich and Leeds, very, very possible again. So automatically we're on 12 points. And we also have to remember that Van Dijk and Liverpool in general from set pieces have just been elite recently. They've just been so good. Well, all season really, they've just been so good from set pieces. They're scoring a lot of goals from set pieces. And Van Dijk is that set piece, aerial threat. He is the one that the corner takers, Trent and Robertson, when they are aiming their corners in, they're aiming for Van Dijk's head. And he is usually the one to grab that headed goal or something like that. So it's kind of a little bit less predictable as a Robertson or maybe a Mane or a Firmino if you want to go for a different Liverpool player. It's a little bit less predictable in terms of where they're going to get their points, but you have to be in it to win it. And if you're going to look for a lucky headed goal this game week, Van Dijk is a very good candidate for that. But we are going to take a couple more punts on the aerial threats because they can just turn into huge points, point scorers. A Van Dijk goal is just going to make him like an 18, 20 point player overnight, which is just going to be incredible for this double game week. So the ceiling for this player is really, really high. He's reasonably cheap if you are on a kind of a tighter budget as well. So for that reason, I do kind of like the look of him on a free hit. Not a kind of player I'd like to have long term, really. I do prefer the players with a little bit more predictable results. Robertson, Jota, in the long term, but we're talking one game week only, right? And that answer to that is Van Dijk. I think for a 1 game week, let's take a risk. Let's hope he gets a headed goal. We've got Tierney next. Again, we're looking for those Arsenal defenders to get the the clean sheets in these 2 very good fixtures for clean sheets. Tierney, I think, is a good defender to go for. If you're on a slightly tighter budget, you can maybe go for Ben White. The right back slot, I'm still not 100% sure how many minutes Tomiyasu is going to be able to play, so that's not really an option. You could also go for Gabriel if you're looking for another set piece master, a headed goal kind of player. You could go for Gabriel at Arsenal, but I think if you're already going for Van Dijk, then maybe we kind of want to look for, FPL points in the more traditional route, and that is going for the fullbacks, going for the ultra-attacking fullbacks. So Tierney, really, really good fullback. We know that he can be very, very creative. We know he can lead directly to goal-scoring opportunities, and he takes a couple of shots as well. So I think he could be a really good Arsenal player to go for if you're looking for an Arsenal defender there. But yeah, there are other options, but I've gone for Tierney, a little bit cheaper than Gabriel, and a little bit more predictable in his results in terms of the FPL points. And we're going to finish off the defence with Saiss, actually. Yeah, we were going to go for a Wolves defender. I feel like Wolves have just been so good defensively recently that arguably it doesn't really matter what the fixture is to a degree. Leicester and Arsenal, yes, we would say, okay, these are 2 teams that often score goals. But if you're on the other hand and you perhaps owned Arsenal or Leicester attackers, you'd be saying, well, I don't know about these Arsenal or Leicester attackers because Wolves are so good in defence. So it kind of works both ways. So from that kind of perspective, I think we maybe need to have a little look at going in on a Wolves defender. And if I'm going to go for one Wolves defender for 1 game week only, it is Saiss. Now, ordinarily, we wouldn't go for Saiss because he is a little bit more expensive than some of the other guys, Kilman, Cody, Ait-Nouri, those are even Semedo. They're all cheaper than Saiss. So Saiss is the most, expensive of the Wolves players in defence, but he is the primary goal threat in terms of these defenders for Wolves. So he is the primary aerial threat. I know you guys are probably thinking, well, Cody scored a couple of game weeks ago. Cody's actually only got 2 Premier League goals in all time. Saiss is actually approaching double figures for total Premier League goals now. So Saiss is the aerial threat. If we're looking for goals from corners, and let me tell you guys, Leicester is a very good game to target if you are looking for goals from corners or goals from set pieces, right? Because they're just tragic in the air, unfortunately, at the moment, because they're missing key players, etc, etc, etc. But yeah, Saiss, I think, is going to put in a good shift defensively. He is, one of the more passier of the defenders, so he's going to be picking up, naturally he's going to pick up bonus points with a clean sheet, but also there is that potential for a goal. So if you're looking for bonus points, if you're looking for clean sheets, if you're looking for the potential of goals, all of those point me towards Size if you don't mind spending a little bit more money just for one game week only. Longer term, you probably go for someone a little bit cheaper, but for one game week only, why not spend the extra 0.3, 0.2 million, whatever. Let's go for it. Into midfield, we've got Salah. No surprise, no surprise. I'm not even going to talk about Salah, I don't think, because I've just spoken about him so much this game week, but he is the only player that I will tell you that you absolutely must have on a free hit. There is, there's no excuse not to have Salah. If you go without Salah this game week, you are just taking such a big risk. It is not worth it. It's not worth it. So don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Even if you don't captain Salah, even if you don't triple captain Salah, at least you can minimize the damage by actually having Salah in your team. So that's all I'm going to say on that one. Get Salah. Make sure he's in there. Next, we've got Heung-min Son. Kind of spoken about him a little bit this week. Again, the double game week for Spurs is not great. City away, Burnley away. It's not amazing. But these are two teams that Son has very good records against. And I know I've said this so many times, but if anyone from Spurs is going to get points in this double game week, it's going to be Son. He's the only player who I actually have any degree of confidence that can actually get something out of these games. So go for a really good player. Go for a player who's got a really good record against each of these teams. Go for Son as your kind of second premium attacker, I suppose, after Salah. We have got a couple of other reasonably expensive players in here, but yeah, for the sake of a second attacker, Son seems to be the guy to go for me. We've got Rafinha next. Now, this Rafinha shout is kind of an interesting one. I'm not 100% sure on this one. This, I would say, is the slot in the team where you can get a bit creative. So even if you're using this as a draft rather than going for this team directly, if you have to replace just one player from this team, I would say Rafinha would be the one to replace because I'm not 100% convinced by this. I know Man United have been a little bit kind of rubbish. I know Liverpool have conceded a few chances, to be fair, recently. But Rafinha's not in amazing form. But again, all it takes is a penalty. Rafinha to take that and you're really well in the points. So I do think Rafinha is a good shout, but I do think there are some other good midfielders you can go for one game week only. I made a video earlier today about some potential Jota replacements, including many of my favourite midfielders, basically. So maybe go check that video out if you're looking for some other inspiration, if you're not quite keen on Rafinha. But I do still think he's a very good pick for a free hit. Still well worth considering, right? And finally, we're going to finish off the midfield with Maxwell Cornet. Quite like this one. I really hope that Cornet is going to go back to the striker slot and be a striker again for Burnley because I think he can do really well in a partnership with Weghorst. I just really like the look of this player. It's a nice-ish double game week because Brighton do concede the odd goal and Spurs have just kind of looked really not so great recently. So I think there is potential for Burnley to score in both of these games, and if you're going to guess where the goals are going to come from, it's going to be Weghorst, it's going to be Cornet. Those are going to be the two players. If Rodriguez plays, maybe him as well, but he's a little bit rotation risk for me. But yeah, pretty cheap player here. Okay fixtures. Double game week, one of the key outlets of attacking returns in that Burnley team. When we saw him before AFCON, he was just scoring for fun, right? He could easily get back into that. Now he's got some slightly easier games than the Liverpool and the Manchester United that he's just played. So yeah, I think there's a lot of reason to like Cornet for a nice punt this game week. Up front, we've got Lacazette. So yeah, I mean, you could go for Lacazette, you could maybe go for Saka instead as your third Arsenal player, but for the sake of this video, I'm actually going to go for Lacazette. I quite like the look of this. Lacazette is on penalty, so we've got another penalty taker in this team, which is, great. It's great to always have those penalty takers, particularly in a double game week because you've got double the chances of a penalty being awarded to your player, right? So, penalty taker, really quite creative. He plays very well at home. He's more of I always find that Lacazette performs a lot more at home in terms of actual goals and assists. So it's good. It's good. Arsenal obviously are kind of lacking Martinelli for the first game week, so Lacazette is going to be perhaps a little bit more primary in terms of scoring goals as well. So I like the look of that. That's going to be in the Brentford game as well, where you would say that Arsenal are more likely to score the goals in that first game. So I like that. A little bit differential as well. I know Lacazette is not necessarily a player you'd want to have long term. I know you guys will probably have a little bit of doubts about that, but that's kind of the joy of the free hit, that we can go for players who are a little bit different, who we are happy to go for one game week. Lacazette's underlying stats look good, penalties, Arsenal in good form. The first fixture in particular is very good. We've got a double game week. We'd say that Lacazette is reasonably nailed on as well. I like it. And then we're going to finish off the attack with Jimenez. Leicester at home, again, fantastic. You know, we talk a lot right now about Project Target Leicester because Leicester are just such a bad defence right now. They are just defensively appalling. So it's nice to have a player, a good attacker or typically good attacker who can capitalise on this. Now, if anyone's scoring the goals for Wolves, it's going to be Jimenez. It's either going to be from a set piece or something, or it's going to be Jimenez. We don't trust the midfielders too much for regular returns, do we? Jimenez, again, on penalties. Another great advantage there. And Arsenal away, even though it's kind of a tricky game, that could be a pretty tight game. Wolves are in really good form. They actually have kind of going under the radar a little bit in terms of having a really good season, really. And if Jimenez scores goals, he's probably going to get bonus points as well because Wolves aren't going to score a whole lot of goals. So the bonus points are going to generally be directed towards Jimenez because, you know, attackers or forwards score very well on the bonus points when they score goals. And if you feel like against Leicester, surely Wolves are going to score a few goals. I mean, everyone's scoring for fun against Leicester at the moment. And so you just got to find who's going to be the player to do that. So you've got the nice Leicester fixture and then prop it up, I guess, with a couple extra points against Arsenal. Maybe even more if Jimenez is able to find himself among the goals or assists. And then on the bench, guys, we've got Carson just for a 3.9 million goalkeeper just to keep the, keep the budget as tight as possible. Go for the cheapest possible goalkeeper. I've got Nori in there. A little bit rotation risk there, but he is really, really cheap. So I guess he could come in as a good backup just in case one of your players got, injured in the warm-up or something and wasn't able to play over the double game week. Broja, like against Everton, it's a really good fixture. He's one of the only non-double game week players who I'm actually really keen on, to be fair. And we've got Brownhill. He's just an excellent 4.3 million, bench option. But he has also got a double game week, technically. So, there is that. But there we go, guys. That is kind of what I'd be looking at for a free hit team. I quite like the look of this. Obviously, if your budget is a little bit more, you maybe make the necessary upgrades. You maybe take Van Dijk to a Robertson, or you maybe go for a 5 in midfield and you take out Van Dijk and Brownhill and maybe bring in a Mane or someone like that for Brownhill, and then just go for a really cheap defender and just stick that player on your bench. There are definitely options to increase and decrease the budget on this team. If you don't like Lacazette, you can maybe go for Saka. If you don't like Jimenez and Cornet, you can maybe swap that around and go for like a Weghorst and someone else in midfield if you like the look of someone else in midfield. So it's a free hit. Have a bit of fun with it. It's not like you are stuck with these players. So go for some differentials. Have fun. Think of players who you like the look of for specifically this game week rather than trying to think long term. Don't think about players you would necessarily think, oh, this is a good pick in general. Think specifically for this game week. For example, with Size, think specifically for this game week, who is good for right now. And these players I like for right now, and I think this free hit team will score very well. All players on double game weeks, it's super, super exciting free hit to go for if that is what you feel like is necessary for your team. Quickly on captains, not going to spend a lot of time on this. It's the same every video I make. Salah captain, Trent vice captain. Every single video I've made this week, Salah is very obviously the best captain. Trent is very obviously the second best captain. So just stick with that. You're taking enough of a risk going for your free hit. You've got enough of an advantage this week with a free hit. Lots of people are going to be triple captaining Salah, which is going to be your main free hitters. That will be your main enemy. It will be the Salah triple captainers. So at least try and minimize the damage by captaining Salah. That way, these triple captains, Salah triple captainers, can't beat you by too much. That is what I would do to minimize the damage. And the rest of your team, all of the doublers that you have right now, are going to make up the gap. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That's what you guys are hoping for, right? So there we go. That is the free hit team. In conclusion, yeah, there we go. But yeah, of course, let me know if you feel like anyone is seriously missing any player that I've not even spoken about at all today that you feel like absolutely must-haves for the double game week. Maybe you like that look of Harry Kane or someone. Maybe you want to go for some more single game week players. Let me know what you think. I'd be super interested to hear about it. But there we go. That's the team. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Massively helps out the channel, and do subscribe as well. Guys, I should tell you, there are so many Game Week 26 related videos on my channel that I've made this week. They're all super relevant still. So if you're looking for more Game Week 26 content to either entertain you or help you out a little bit, you've got some questions, I guarantee that they'll probably be answered in some of my other videos. So go check out my other Game Week 26 videos. I'm sure they'll be really useful to you guys. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow on the deadline stream, I hope. And yeah, that's it for content for this week. Thank you so much for watching once again, mates. And I'll see you later, mates. That's about right. Bye-bye.